Hello.
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 How are
Hello.
things?
Okay. How about you?
Yeah. I say okay.
How's your back?
It's still fighting me a little bit. So I was just trying to do an update to Joan's project, and I got some progress, but I don't really have it to where I wanted it to be. But I think it's time to share it and let other people give me feedback. So that's sort of what I'm thinking. How are you and Joan doing?
I'm doing fine. Just
great.
I missed the meeting last week because of work, and I can only stay for the first hour today because of work. And I haven't done much on my project because of work.
Other than work, how are things going?
It's the end of the month, and projects are due at the end of the month.
Yeah,
so
we understand.
have more free time next week.
That's part of what I'm hoping is by me. I don't mean to take over your effort, but I just went back through and looked at with the repository you had created in GitHub. That's what I downloaded this project from, and then I filled some out. My thinking was, and this is what I did in the video, was my thinking was if I can sort of make progress on some of the pieces I understand, and we can get some feedback from other people who are understanding the coding challenges, because it was helpful for me for you to have the working foundation that actually sent the statement. Because everything I had done before was using the web browser, using a web page, and talking to the JavaScript libraries. So I need to thank you. From my perspective, you've pushed me beyond that boundary that I've been, butting up against for quite a while. And then what I did was, Helen had put together a presentation and sort of fleshed out what the verbs were for the project. So I think you saw the next steps I had and were able to see that list, hopefully. No?
I might not have. Is it in Slack or is it in?
It's in Slack, but actually it was on the video from last week, if not the week before. So let me.
No, I didn't watch the video from last week.
That's all right. Let me just pull open my screen on the development machine while Peter joins the audio. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I'm opening another screen here. It's right there. You should be able to see it.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be so straightforward in LiveCode until I saw Andrew's presentation way back, like maybe the second or third meeting.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, you just say post and things work. Well, I mean, you have to get the statements right and endpoints right.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was what I did do in preparation for the meeting was, okay, what do I do now?
Right.
I don't really want to deal with Android and skin, the UI. I don't really want to do that. Then it occurred to me, so what am I going to report back? I don't really have an activity in mind.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to.
That's what you're doing, right? Yeah.
Yes. So yeah. I'm trying to enable that, and I'm struggling to find my own file, but now I've gone and I opened the last version, which is fine. And let me get the participants list off of there. I don't know that you even saw that, but so what this one does, if I can, I'll just sort of jump in and give my update. It looks like, and this is part of this is recognizing that Joan had done the initial work and that she is short on time and needing to get out of here. So I do want to just sort of jump into this. I don't mean to cut other people off that aren't here to see it, but that's sort of where we're at, is we need to talk through this. So what I've done is I pulled in this graphic that showed the verbs. What you had originally created is a card I named settings. So if I go to settings, you see the endpoint, you see the username, the password, the statement that you had built, and then the results based on sending that. And this I was literally using a few minutes before the meeting and got this result, actually invalid URL. So let me hit post again and see if we're doing the same thing.
Are you sharing your screen, Brian? Trying to?
Oh my goodness. I dragged it over what I was looking at. My apologies. Not seeing anything. Kevin, yeah, feel free to speak up. So let me go into share. And actually, I also want to hit record. When I did this the other day, I actually got a note from Zoom that they were extending the 40 minutes. I don't know that they're going to do that today, but we may be so lucky. And it just might be a bit of a hack to have them say, yeah, we're going to extend this for you. So,
Yay!
How's that? All right.
That was needed.
Okay. Yes, my apologies. So rather than flying blind.
The verbs and that kind of
Yeah, so here are the verbs. And here's the button for settings. And that is this card that we're on. And what I've done is I've added cards and named them. So if I go through the cards, I hit initialized. There's just this little header up here, and the idea was I didn't quite want to overwhelm us with a huge, but we can change the size of that as we go. And then I've copied in a generic statement using initialized. And these are actually some documentation that I think the Veracity people would put together for ADL. So I'm using basically some standard statements that they're proposing for the Navy as a way to move forward with these tools. So you can see it's adl.navy.mil. It's got initialized, and that's really where we're focused right now. It's using the definition and using that word. So if I go through and hit played, you'll see it change. Hit paused, you'll see it changed. Seeked, you'll see it changed. For some reason, they did not use the verb interacted, so they don't have a standard, an example of a statement. So I just put a note in there saying I don't have that copied in yet. And then completed and terminated both have that. Now, because I've built it this way, what I had done was I want to go to Tools and say Project Browser. And this will show you we're in a single stack. If I expand this down, you can see there are cards, right? So there's initialized, plays, pause, seeked, interacted. So these line up with what you see over here. There's also settings, which is what Joan had initially created. So I renamed that one settings. And then there's an end card. I'm not sure what you were thinking, but that's there. So I just named it end and left it there.
You can delete that. That was
Okay.
from when I was just learning.
No problem. But the other thing to notice is if you haven't used it before, you can double click on these icons and move around. So as if I'm clicking the buttons over here, I can click on this navigator and sort of get around. And then the other thing to realize is if I go out of browse mode and into edit or development mode, you can see some of the things up here changed. And I want to show this is actually a group. Edit group, ungroup, select group. So if I go into edit group, what it does is it hides everything else, showing me only the objects in that group. And if I drag through this, you'll see all the items. So I have one group that has initialized, played, paused, seeked, interacted, completed, terminated, and settings as individual buttons. And then there is a graphic behind that acts as the navigation element for the group. And so if I cancel out of this and click Stop Editing, I'm also showing you how to get in and look at those details. The other thing to do is I can control-click on the Mac or right-click on Windows, and when I have the group selected, I can look at Edit Script. And what I'm doing is editing the script for the group. Since it's a single group, I'm only seeing what that whole group has as a common script. And in this case, there's a mouse up. I'm putting the short name of the target into tcard. The target in this case is the name of the group. So it's actually going to be verb list, which is what you see up here. And then I'm going to the card. My apologies. The group name is up here, verb list, but the target is the button we're clicking on. And they're named as what you see, initialized, played, paused. So getting the short name gets the name of the verb we want to use. And because the cards are named the same as the verb, which is what I'm showing you here, I can just use a short script that says go card T card. So again, I'm putting the short name of the target into a variable called T card, and then I use this go card T card to say whichever one they clicked on, go to that card. And it's a little abstracted because there are variables involved and there's a number of buttons. But by setting the group up this way, when I added the settings button, all I had to do was create a new button, name it settings, and put it within the group, which was the hardest part. And once I did that, that button is behaving just like the other buttons. It's getting the short name of the target, it's putting that into a variable, and then it's going to the settings card, which is working just fine. And you saw that in me navigating. So if I close the edit group, if I close the edit group, I opened it. Now I'm back here on the card. Again, I'm still in development or edit mode. The other thing to know is if I click on this, I'm selecting the group. That's why this is saying edit group. But the other thing to look at is the object menu now says ungroup selected, which it identifies it as a group. But what I wanted to get at is in paste group, it now says verb list. And last time when we did this video, I had updated the name of the group, but for some reason it didn't update this. So after I saved it and after I closed it and reopened it, it's updated that information. The other thing to notice is there is only one group. There was two earlier. I went through as I added the settings button, it became very apparent which ones were not the same group. So I went through and deleted that group from that card and placed the new group. So before I delete your last card, I want to go through and show you what that looks like. If I go to last card and I go edit, I may have not copied. We're going to see what happens here. My apologies.
You do object place group.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good point. So without copying, Peter is prompting me. If I go object place group, I can see the different names. I don't know why there are multiple now. And here is the group we were talking about with the settings button in place. So all I've done is gone to that card. It could be a new card. In this case, it was a card without the group. If I go back into browse mode, I can now navigate around using that same. Now, obviously, I'm gone from that card once I click. So if I go back here to view and go last, we're back on this end card or back card, and I can go to settings. I can go to whichever one I want from there. So within LiveCode, we're able to place a group that's already been created. And in this case, it has the navigation built in. So by making a new card and placing that group, we're ensuring we can navigate throughout the file. Any questions on the pieces I've shown today? Welcome, Andrew. I think you just came in. Go ahead.
Brian, let's make a comment. So this stack has what, 9 cards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Yes.
And the first 8 of them are what LiveCode calls a background. And the last card, so the background contains the stuff on the left as well as the group on the right. And so since it's a background, you see the same objects all through all 8 cards. The fields have different data in them, but the object, the fields, the labels, the buttons all shared throughout the 8 cards. The last card is not part of that background, so so if you go to the last card, you won't see the stuff on the left, just the group that Brian placed.
Yeah, thank
you.
That's
a very, very convenient thing about LiveCode is that you can make these multiple cards all having shared objects in the fields where you can put new field, and then you can also set. If you go back to the so there's he placed that group into this last card. It's a different background though. As you see, it doesn't have everything the other cards did.
So I think the objects you're talking about on the other cards are on the card themselves. I've added other labels to the card that aren't in the background.
Yep.
How do you get cards to share the same background? So how do you do it, Peter? Just
yeah. Well, that's a setting in the object inspector.
Okay.
So
and there, if you scroll down your object inspector, Brian, or raise it up there. Yeah. So there's.
So I'm selected on this. You want me to select the card?
Oh, behave like a background.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the last down there. That's a checkbox. And so that thing he has selected, which is the statement fields, it says behave like a background. So every time you make a new card, that will be on that card, because so it's a shared group. Behave like a background.
Right. So I've made these two groups, and I've marked both of them. If I click this other one, you'll see. There we go. We'll see similar. Now I'm confused why it did this to me. It didn't select the group. It selected the image.
No, that's the group.
That is strange.
Oh no, you're
You have select grouped enabled in your
That's why.
Yeah,
Thank you. So let's turn that off, and now if I click on it, I get the group name verb list. Thank you, Andrew. And I need to open this window up a little more, and it says behave like a background. So both of these groups, in the sense, are being told behave like they're on the background of the card. And this is another piece of it is now if I create a new card, those groups will show up on the background of that new card. The reason I had to place them on this card that you had existing is I created the backgrounds after this card was created. So I needed to place them on it to make it shared to this card. Remember, this is that card I named end that you said, oh, we can just delete that. Well, I'm using it for this example is because it was created early on and then I did the background work. What I did was in the earlier videos, I created each of these as group, or I made the verb list, and I made the statement fields. Sorry, that script is a little small. And then I created 3 of these cards after I created the statement fields. Then I created the verb list and added it as a background object, or identified it like we showed in that panel. And what that did was say anything forward, any new cards I add will have those objects added to them as part of the background. Any existing cards, I needed to manually go to the object menu like we showed and place group.
And if you make updates to the group, it propagates or
yes.
becomes on the background.
So that is what I did today was I went in and I edited this group. I added the settings button. And as I went through each card, some of them had a version 1 and a version 2. Once I added the settings, I could easily see which ones had that button, go to the other cards and delete the shared background object, the shared grouped object, and then place the newer one with the new button. And that meant that now they're all in sync. But I'm a little confused now because I still see verb list on here. So on this, for some reason on this group, it's saying that it's available to have a 3rd version placed. So I thought I had eliminated it, but somehow it's still part of this stack, and I'm not sure
I've seen that happen before.
Where and when.
Yeah, you can have as you place, you'll see sometimes that happens, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
LiveCode is something confusing.
So I probably should have opened the navigation as I was doing this, because you can now see these grouped objects are here. Verb list is one, statement fields is the other. And if I expand them, you'll see that all those names show up. In this case, they're, you know, the background image and then the names of the buttons that I'm using. In this case, I didn't name the image itself, but I named the group verb list. So it still has image ID 1084. And the other thing about the project browser is when you're trying, if you're naming, if you change tenses, you know, if you have a card named play and a button named played, and and the script says go card played, it's not going to find the card played because the name of the card was play without the ed on it. So one of the things you get into with troubleshooting is, why isn't it navigating to that card? Well, let me make sure I'm using the same word for the card name and the button name, because if you get them out of sync, the navigation for that one object won't behave the same as the others. And that's why I wanted to talk about the project browser a little bit, show you how all the individual buttons appear, and show you how these cards appear. And in a sense, we are, I want to say linking them together, but it's just you know, a descriptor. What we're doing is using code and capturing the name of the button that's being clicked on and saying go to the card name with the same name as this button. And like I said, if you get them out of sync or you get an extra space in there, you'll find that that button's no longer working and you have to sort of troubleshoot to get through it. So I mentioned I went through and I've added cards for each of these verbs. Most of them now have an example statement. Obviously this one doesn't, and I mentioned that interacted doesn't. But you can see if you scroll through here, completed should. Now, one of the challenges, and this might be an Andrew or Peter level question, but one of the challenges is with this post statement being a button in the group on this card, when I click post, the challenge is I'm not on the settings card. So the script that's in that post button is actually saying, or acting, I should say, as if we're on settings and saying, go to these fields. And the other thing I'm finding is somewhere in here buried, there's a, or it might be on each card, somewhere there is buried a statement that blanks out the endpoint, the username and password. So I added a button to set those variables really quickly. But what I'm seeing is as I navigate and then go back to settings, they're gone. So I have to sort of dive in, you know, sift through that and find those scripts. But in the meantime, the post statement, the idea is, say I want to be on the completed card. I want to be using the statement here and putting that into memory and then going to settings and sending the statement. So this is where I've sort of tripped myself up, is I'm running into challenges with that code. And I don't have it open.
Well, you must be using the first version I put up. I put up a second version where I've moved a lot of stuff onto the script stack. There,
Okay.
Because I wasn't here at the last meeting. That's what I did. And I just completely forgot the last meeting.
Oh, that's okay.
And so all of that stuff is up. I moved that stuff from the card level up to the script.
Yeah, okay. That'll probably help me. So I can go through and look at that and see what changes you made, because that's sort of where I was at is, do I want to go through and do that myself, or do I want to hand this back and see if you wanted to take it and
I can do that.
Fill in some of the details. So either way,
it might be easier just for me to look at what you have.
Okay.
And then integrate my stuff, because I was thinking, I said, oh, for the long term, having it on the card would not be a good idea.
Yep. So I can either put it up I may be able to put it up in the GitHub, because that is the repository you created. But what we've done recently in the last couple of weeks is just put a file up in Slack, and then people can pull that down. Ideally, we want to archive things to GitHub, at least some of the version changes, because it's going to stay there after the cohort ends.
Yeah.
But for work in progress, it's just fine to put it in Slack. I don't want to overcomplicate things.
Oh, okay. Because I had putting it in GitHub, so I have, two versions. I just commit on top of the one that's there.
Well, that's the other part of it, is I don't want you to overwrite what you've got
Oh.
this is a different implementation of your first version, and it's sort of in between too. If you look at the versioning, I started with your version 1. As you were working, you brought it up and updated it and created a version 2. But this one is sort of a branch, and it's in between. So I don't want to just copy it into GitHub and have the tendency to replace either of the ones you've got, because it's not truly an update if you've made other changes. That's sort of gets into some of that complexity and all the branches that we talk about with GitHub is if somebody makes a change to something and you've published, but you're already into making changes based on what you've published, and then I make a version based on what you've published, we've got to sort of orchestrate how do we do that. And this is one of the things that I know Kevin's been asking about this, and one of the things that Martin's been talking about. If we had these things in the Elaboration framework, we could be working on the script pieces of it. But the truth is once you start putting graphics and objects on the card and building, things into the background, you still have this problem because that's part of the binary part. It's not part of the script stacks. So we still would have run into these issues even with that framework, I guess is what I want to wrap things up with. Any other comments or questions on this piece? Go ahead.
You're going to put that in Slack?
I will put this in Slack.
Okay. Thanks.
Actually, I can do that now. I think. At 3:30.
Brian?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I ask a question? So you're saying like this card we're looking at, this is completed. And so the actual, like it says name John Doe, is the John Doe supposed to be replaced by the one that's in the settings? The name that's in the settings?
Is the John Doe? Oh, I did not put script in for that. So what I see what you're asking here is if I go to settings, that card still has its example statement that Joan built. With its example name and all these other items. These are unchanged from what Joan built.
Yeah.
So I added cards like for the other verbs, initialized, played, and the examples I used. Peter, you might have not been logged in when I started that part of it.
Okay.
Is I went through and brought up examples. People at Verizon have published some of this for the Navy, and the examples they're using specifically for video include all the verbs that we're looking at except for interacted for some reason.
Right. Yeah.
So they had examples for initialized, played, paused, seeked, completed, and terminated, and it, from my perspective, rather than crafting these myself, they're a little more elaborated than I would be able to do.
So if you clicked on post statement right now, what would happen?
Well, right now it is trying to go to the other card with the settings and send it from there. So let me see what the last... Yeah, it's giving invalid URL because one of the things that's happening within the stack is it is clearing out those examples.
Oh, I see.
So if I go to the other card... I clicked it, interacted again. If I go to the other card and then go back to settings, it's gone. And part of the coding right now says, from terminated, I want to grab this and put it into memory, but then go to card settings, which is now blank, and the script says, get the endpoint, get the username, get the password.
You can these are yes. Blank. Okay, so one thing you can do is you don't need to go to the card. You could just say, get the data from those fields of card settings, put field, whatever that field is called.
Yep.
The first one, the endpoint,
So if I edit the script for that button, I'm hopeful everybody's able to see this.
Yeah.
Joan, I've started this process, so it's a little mangled, a little changed from where you had it. I am getting the warning that we're running out of time, so we're down to a 10-minute timer.
Right.
So
So
sorry.
so it said you can comment out go card settings. You really don't really need to go there. And then line 8, it would say put the text of field endpoint of card settings into T endpoint. So between
you can see I tried it, but I used from and that didn't work. So I want to say of card settings
yes.
after each one.
Before
You can use of or on.
No,
Either
no.
one of those will work.
Right before into endpoint. Put into endpoint as your last phrase.
Yeah, because you're getting the field of that card.
You
Endpoint of field endpoint of card settings into
T endpoint
like that.
end of line.
Yeah.
And
That's
then,
it.
yeah, with my latest version, all of this stuff is in the stack script. So on mouse up, you just say send statement.
Yeah.
And
See,
that's in the stack script, so it could just, the stack script could say go to the settings and grab the information.
That's why I'm thinking we sort,
Yeah.
when we wrap up here, we sort of need to swap these stacks through Slack, and then it probably would be easier for me to update with that script. But I mean, we can go through this a little bit and see if we can troubleshoot it out. Anything else you want me to scroll down? So it is.
You mentioned that that statement is already created, like that's a static. And I thought I read that in Joan's stack as well. But that JSON looks pretty easy to recreate if we wanted to get in. Joan, I didn't look at deep enough at your newest stack. I tried to play with it, and the WMV file doesn't work on a Mac, so I kind of had to move on to something else. But I've dealt a lot with converting arrays to JSON with a change for Apple push notifications recently. So just looking at that statement, while yes, it is very robust and definitely not something we would want to do by hand, it's really easy to use array to JSON to convert those and make them on the fly.
Yeah, that was on my to-do list. But then I noticed in the notes that Martin did that last week. He showed the array.
He has another tool, another stack that he's created that has them a good part of the JSON separated out into fields, and then he's got a script that's building the full JSON statement from those fields.
And I think it says something about array to JSON. Yeah,
he's using it. Yes.
Yeah, by compiling variable into an array that is converted to JSON. So is that the same thing that you were talking about? Okay.
Sorry, I missed last week as well, so I'm also playing a little bit of catch up.
So I think I want to comment these out because it's going to be redundant to what we've done up here. So let me do a block comment.
A pro tip that I've picked up on block comments is starting with the end of the block and going back to the beginning. Because when you start with the beginning, it comments everything, and it's hard to tell where you intended to stop. It's just one of those little things that I kind of wish didn't auto-format for you.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's most of it. Is the rest of it down here is updating the results with the status information. So if you can see, if you were able to help me with these pieces, and initially I was trying to do it from the card that you're on without bouncing around. And, I said, well, there's got to be a way, but I didn't get it to work. So I think we're ready to apply and test unless somebody sees something. No comments? We'll see what happens. So we want to go to completed. We're going to hit post. I'm getting invalid URL. So one of the things to ask, and that might be why. Endpoint of card settings.
It needs a complete URL. HTTPS.
Yeah. So that's Okay. Object stack script. I don't see anything in stacked, and I'm not sure where it's being captured.
Is it the group?
Card script. There it is, but I thought I had a comment.
Yeah, I was going to say I had that on the code.
Your open comment tag
There's a question
didn't
mark.
have the shift key held down.
How's that? Does that look good?
Yeah.
That might help. My goodness. And then you said I should have the fully qualified domain. I actually tested it on both, so I'm switching screens on you. And then I should be able to paste that in and have it stay.
You'll probably want to add that string to the set SCORM cloud button, though.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I want to test it. So I want to hit completed, hit post, 400 return from server, malformed URL, unrecognized method at the end of path. And that, frankly, is what I got.
You have to have statements at the end. The word statements. So it's the endpoint, and then for some reason you have to put statements. So you're posting this data to the statements. So it's not the, it's a misnomer when I say LRS endpoint. It's the LRS endpoint plus statements at the end.
The word?
Without a backslash. Yeah. Statements or statement? I have to look it up.
Okay.
I think it's, where'd it go?
Those trailing S's always end up causing a problem because it's
so
easy to think one or say one and not have them match up.
I'm having problems seeing the highlight for this field. I could not tell what was selected and I wanted to edit. Sandbox. I swear I got it to send from this, but it's doing the same thing.
Where'd it go?
Statement gives an error. Plural. Lots more errors.
There's more there now.
Wow.
Did not be created from a JSON. Oh, it's a bad JSON? No.
Looks like it's the header request. What's in the HTTP headers? What's forming that?
Statement.
So lines 16 and 17. So according to the results, it's talking about, did you forget to add an experience API version header? So that would be, it needs to go in there somewhere.
Oh, really? Okay. We need to modify the headers.
Yeah. Yeah, some of them require it and some don't. So
I was just going to ask Joan, which LRS did you use originally?
Ooh, we're under a minute though.
Oh.
Veracity. Okay. I'm using SCORM Cloud as the button mentioned. So yeah, changing that is something else that caused me to need to troubleshoot. But because it's deleting the endpoints and the username information on me, when I opened up the stack to navigate through it, I had lost, without re-downloading your file, I had lost that information. So I just put mine in there. And that way, you saw that other screen. That way I can go over here and try and see data. But at this point, I'm not getting anything yet, if I understand correctly. It's not looking at mine. So 3/17, so St. Patrick's Day was the last time I'd sent a statement. Successfully, I should say. Oh! Foiled by... Hello, everyone. Foiled by Zoom again. And Joan. Did everyone make it back in? Are you hearing okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess that was a bit of a process check. Do we want to continue on group coding with this, or do we want to move on to somebody else? Does somebody else have an update to offer? Martin said he'd be here about 4, but I don't see him yet, so he's the other one I'm hoping will have an update for sure. Joan, do you want to open your file and share what you've done, or should we continue with... What would you rather do?
I can share. It might be better just to continue. I don't know, because I don't know how to answer that question. I can show you what I did, and then we can decide how to proceed. But let me.
So after the bump off, I did push up the version 2-05 LiveCode file into our Slack channel.
Alrighty. So I hadn't looked at it in a while. Let me share. It says host disabled participants.
Oh, sorry. It's a new session, so I got to open that up again. All participants, you should be able to share now.
Alrighty. So
Later, Bella. See you soon.
Right. So you just remember the text, Graham. All right, Gunnar.
Sorry, Kevin, I muted you.
okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
So, I have too many things. All right. So this is now the UI, and the thing I wanted to do was be able to save xAPI statements and then at some point later batch and send them up. Yep. I think that works. So let me see if it works, because I hadn't done this in a while. I think it still works. All right, let's see. So I did use, I'll use Storm Cloud then, since I have that one. If I can remember my password to get in here. Oh, I have to do Windows. Close that. Here, get that, and put endpoint. Oh, wrong one. And then, that's okay. That's saying I have a statement to send. This is just an alert. And then it should send it. And so it was successful. And it sent 1, 2, 3 statements, because I had those saved to a file.
So it's sending multiple. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because if I say save the file.
Yep, it's adding to it.
File, and it should send 2 now, I think, if I say, I don't know why that comes up. Maybe I post and I say, yeah, I have some to send. And then it takes a while, and maybe I don't clear it out, because it looks like it's 5 of them now. It
looks like it's adding to the file, which is...
Yeah, so that's the part I have to do. After I send them, I need to remove them from the file. So I think I just append. But if I do the... If I open the script again, I can't remember how this thing works. But anyway, that's what it does. But if I wanted to, I could just post the LRS, and it just does what's in there.
Yeah.
And then if I save, then it'll send it.
Now, if you click out of dev mode and click on the buttons, you can right-click on them to edit the script.
What?
Is it just me that's lost your audio?
No. I lost her as well.
Joan, try cutting off your video camera while you're sharing. Your audio's gone choppy on us. Did we lose her? No? She stopped sharing and stopped video, so I think she's still connected. Andrew, could I ask you, do you have anything to show us this time around?
I do not have anything xAPI related. I've got some array to JSON stuff that I've done in the past week or so that would kind of roll into this, but if Joan could get hers up, it would be pretty easy to get that basic statement converted.
Yeah. She's doing great work.
Mhm.
I just pinged Martin on Slack to see if he's available. He might have just lost track of the meeting time here. Joan, was that you trying to talk? We're having problems hearing you now. There you are. Joan, are you hearing? I'm thinking something happened with her internet connection because she's appears online, but I don't think she's hearing us. Martin responded and said he can join us in a moment. I think we're
Says my
having
internet
to
connection.
translate from Canadian. Oop, looks like she's disconnected. She's going to try coming back in. So, I'm going to jump back in and share and just test what we had done. I thought we had gotten to a point where I could test it, and then everybody was gone. Let's turn off that. Turn off that. Run. Yep, we're still getting. Oh, that's right. We had gotten to the point where we said there's a difference between Swarm Cloud and how we need to structure the headers. So Andrew, can I ask you to remind me, what do we need to add to the header?
It stated it in the result field there. It said something about like a xAPI element or something.
Okay. Deserialize instant of Java language string, value string token.
Scroll a little bit higher. Experience API version header. So without seeing the docs for the API, I'm not exactly sure how that would get formatted, but it's probably just an extra line like the content type.
Yep. And it might be that Veracity is written, well behaved enough to ignore that, but Swarm Cloud is being more strict. And if I remember right, Veracity had both a strict and a casual mode. And here comes Joan again. So Veracity had both a strict and a casual mode, and it may default to the casual mode unless you tell it to strictly enforce things. So my mouse is submarining, but how you doing, Joan? Are you hearing us now? Are you hearing us better, I guess I should ask?
Yeah, I got your internet connection is unstable and the computer wouldn't let me leave Zoom to come back in and wouldn't let me leave LiveCode. I just need to upgrade. Get a new
Sorry.
computer. But, yeah, for the header, it needs to be capital X API experience version, and it should be 1.0.0. So if you add that. Oh, okay.
So is it that?
Mm-hmm. And 1.0.0 if you're going to test it. But I have to
You still got to keep that return in there though, so that it's on its own
Did
line.
I delete it? I thought I just made it.
You didn't delete it. You pushed it back.
And return.
So you can keep the string. Don't do an and to concatenate that. Just make that all one string. The Experience API version : space 1.00.
Okay. Oh, I see. So I don't need this. Is that what you're saying?
Put a colon after the N so that it's declared, and add a return right before this. So you've got the application JSON and experience. We need a return between the JSON and the experience. So this is its own line on the header.
Okay.
It might work without that. I don't know if that's just a clean code format type of thing, but I think it needs to be on some. That looks like it should work.
So what is this character doing for me?
What that character does is it signifies that a line of code is not done, but you are adding in a hard return. So otherwise, if you're trying to make this one big statement, it would end up being longer or wider than the live code screen. So technically lines 16, 17, and 18 are all one statement. So that slash just tells the engine, let it just keep going. Yeah. Otherwise, you'd end up saying like put authorization basic and base64 and return into some variable. And then the next line would be put content type application JSON and return after some variable. And then the next line would be put experience API after some variable. So it just sort of keeps it flowing as one statement.
Hey, look at that. There we go. Here's our data. So 331. Dwight Schruti? I'm not sure how to say that.
The Office. Dunder Mifflin.
I haven't seen much of it, so I don't know how to pronounce his name. I don't know why that's still in there. That's still coming from something. Okay. That's a good test. Is now I know I'm getting the data from here, and we need statements and the HTTPS. So let me select that. And edit script. Oh, Martin is waiting. I had a PSP moment. I need to let him in. So since we have success, I'm going to update my button to include all that text. Martin, are you hearing us?
I am now. Sorry, I thought I do this a lot. I type out something, either a mail or a message or a Slack, and I don't send it. And then,
awesome.
So I said today that I had an all-day work thing on Zoom, but it just ended, so I can join you for a little while and then I have to go again.
Okay. Well, what we've done so far is I showed what you're seeing on the screen is my update to Joan's example.
Okay.
And I had just published this as version 2.5 in the Slack.
Okay.
But we've sort of created 2.6 on the fly.
Oh, good.
And made some changes to it that has given us success. I don't know if people saw, but I actually sent a statement from this completed page So here is the completed verb and the URL. And again, this is one of those from the John Doe Navy documents that Veracity had published. And so if I scroll down a little bit, you're seeing Advanced Airborne Sensor Overview. And if I scroll back to my SCORM cloud, John Doe has completed the Advanced Airborne Sensor Overview. So I have sent a statement both from the settings card and from this completed card.
Okay.
So you can see the success response here. Oh, and then
Oh, cool.
we have someone else coming
Right.
in. I'm not sure.
That's
who...
me, Brian. I'm trying to change devices so I can follow along in a different setting.
Okay. I think that was Andrew speaking. Your video wasn't
Yes.
on, so
Yes, I will be video list and logged in through two different
fine.
sources so I can see and hear in a different room.
okay, that's fine. So Martin, I don't know if you saw what I put together for an agenda, but I was wondering if you would have an update to share. If I drag over the Slack, I can share that. We sort of went through my and Joan updates. I still have yet to hear from David. Helen put a note in Slack that's up here that says she won't be able to join, but she's planning on catching up through our video. So I just have sort of an open slot to know if Martin has anything he wants to share with us, or do we want to continue down the agenda?
No, I haven't done anything in the past week.
Okay.
What I'd still like to do is start to tie some of the I noticed Helen mentioned she was going through, how I was making the array that was then used to create the statement.
Right.
And so I'd like to make that into a nice little package that you could slide into yours, like to make it as a library, as like a standalone stack, just to demonstrate that idea that you could include with yours. And then you could, because right now you still aren't creating the statements, right? You're just taking them from another source and pasting them in that field, right? Or have you started creating statements from scratch?
I'm not sure if you're speaking to me or Joan.
Or either.
In my case, no. I'm using. I'm pointing to the wrong screen again because I have it overlapped. I'm using these statements that I copied from documentation from Veracity.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm not building them. I saw that you had worked on code for that, so I didn't even approach that. And I'm hoping we can pull that together.
Yeah, so that's what I'd like to do, is make it so that you can, so when you click on initialized, then you can say, it'll make a command that says, it goes through add actor, add verb,
right,
whatever, and just has some parameters. And then once that's done, it populates that field.
right,
and then the rest then you post. So I just want to make it, so I've got that stack that I started. I've gotten, actor, verb, and something else, but the result or whatever. So I just want to add it to that, and then make it as a library and pass that on, or add it as a 2.7 or something to yours, so that people could see how that worked.
okay.
And they get closer to our product.
Right.
That was that's what I plan to do. And I've got the weekend, I've not booked anything. So I actually have some time to do things that I want to do, and not the things everybody else wants me to do.
Understood. We appreciate it. I didn't mean to
I've
put you on the spot.
I've had enough of work this week. 2 days ago, I cracked on the subway or on the streetcar, and there was a guy yelling, and I started yelling at him at the same volume and with the same words.
Oh.
First time I've ever done that in my life. I think I scared him. But anyways, But I think I've had enough of going out, and I've had enough of staying in.
Yep. Yeah, I do think things are, people's temperaments are getting a little frayed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
somewhere, I'm sure there's someone got a video of that online. Standing in the middle of the street, yelling at some guy at the top of my lungs.
Well, unless they knew who you were, there's still a good chance you're anonymous.
Yeah.
But
well, it's like
we'll
3 blocks away. 3 blocks away from my house, so really bad.
Yeah, you're lucky you didn't.
Anyways, I'm looking forward to seeing myself in full flight. So.
Well, thank you for that. I don't have an update from David. The short bursts of communications I've got from him, he is in. I can't even remember the name of it. He's not actively using his email. He says he's rarely on Slack. He's rarely in the tools that I'm using for communications. And then what he has used, again, it's even newer than TikTok, if I can just put it that way. I'm not a TikTok user, but it's even newer. So he's up to date on the latest stuff, but he's not talking to me because of that. So he has implied that he is making progress on his own approach. I'm hoping he'll be able to join into one of our meetings and share it with us. And then, like I mentioned, Helen, I'm highlighting something you guys can see. Helen has mentioned in Slack that she's unavailable. And then the open items, I don't know if we have any from last week. I shouldn't say that. I think we've just finished walking through our updates and walking through open items from last week. Unless anyone has anything else we should talk on under that bullet point. And if I understand correctly, Martin, you're sort of working, or you shared a file that we can elaborate as a demo of using video functions.
Yeah, it was just to show how messages work in video, so that as you do different things, I think I added something to it later.
Yeah.
After our meeting, but some are straightforward, start, stop in the video. Some are a little bit more tricky, like when you drag something there's a current time changed. If you drag the slider, it happens. If it plays, it happens. So you have to do a little bit of logic to figure out, how do I differentiate? So the way I differentiated was, I realized that if the play rate is 0, then it's just dragging. If the play rate is greater than 0, then it's playing. And so that way so once you have that logic worked out, then the next step is to, set up a thing. It's like, so after, once you start dragging, then you set a flag to say, person is seeking. Yep. And then once the dragging stops, then you send off your seeked, because you've got your final time point. There's a bit of fiddling around that you'd have to do to convert the time to the format that xAPI uses, which is, I convert everything to thousandths of seconds, and in xAPI, that's what they do. They do the time, dot, and thousands. So I don't use that actual format, but I've got a little bit of snippets that can go back and forth no matter what type of video it is, just to have a common time format. So that's another little bit on that. So I'll do both. I'll work on both of those and just post the results up, and then we can, because I know I didn't want to go too far down the video road, because I thought Peter wanted to work on that, but I just thought I'd post that up as a starting point. So I don't know if Peter has comments, or if he's
no, you're not overlapping anything I'm doing. I was working on callbacks with video or audio.
Okay.
And I had something prepared, but it's not working yet.
Okay. And the one thing I was thinking is about callbacks is, what is how to handle them in xAPI, right? The video profile has a set list of verbs, and So then would it be like you can suggest or create your own verbs or use a verb from a different profile, or there's the extensions and what's the other word? There's two different types of things, extensions and something, so that you could put data in there. So if you did play stopped, and you could have, you know, time, this, callback, value, or whatever. Like if you had some, so that would be a part of that task, is to figure out what to call it when a callback gets triggered, because it's not a user interaction. It's a but it's something. It's a part of it. It's a type of interactivity, but it's like, does it create a, what's the word? It's like environment context. It creates a context, right? So the context was watching a video, and then video stopped due to a callback. So then the user must have some sort of action expected of them, which they then do, that you could have a verb for that maybe. Oh, I see Joan is leaving.
Thanks,
Hi,
Joan.
Joe.
Bye, Joan. Anyways, so I'm glad to know I didn't overlap there, but I just wanted to. I was also doing that just so people could see just get an idea about, like I said, about the messages.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. And then the other thing I was going to mention is Andrew had posted some examples. Are you in a place where you can elaborate verbally on what you posted in the Slack? Or are you multitasking, Andrew?
Maybe. Is this mic working?
I didn't hear that.
Let me get the right microphone.
Okay. Am I here?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I gotta hop out of this one.
You got two.
One
You
of
got
these would be
echo.
good.
Mhm. There we go. I found some of this before I saw what Martin had posted with the video, but a lot of it was browser widget hacks was kind of the route that I had been exploring. And so some of this was specifically using video playback. So that link, Brian, that you're hovering over for the forums, that goes to an example stack that had a lot of callback functions built into the browser widget. So basically what everything was seeming to do was use the browser widget, but create some HTML on the fly and just wrap whatever the content was in that HTML with just a little bit of JavaScript. So by doing that, you have the content basically in a browser window, but you've got a little bit of extra control through that JavaScript. So I found another really good example stack. I think is the next post or a little bit further up on that. Yeah, it looks like the binary is a little bit further down.
Yep.
That was that theory for Keith.livecode stack there. It was just a little file that, again, using the browser widget that I'd found between the browser widget and a couple little JS fiddle code repositories that I was able to search and play with, was able to set it up so that I could place a PDF inside of a browser widget, determine the height of that rendered canvas, and then figure out when I'd gotten to the bottom of the scroll bar. So, and while doing this, have the JavaScript in the browser talk with LiveCode to pass information, basically callback style. So it's done basically through math, so you can kind of figure out when someone was halfway or all the way down. But I didn't get any farther than basically just wrapping some divs In theory, it could be anything. It could be, images, PDFs, whatever. But basically, we're making web pages on the fly and then determining when we got to the bottom of it to determine if the user had actually completed consumption of it. So I don't have anything as far as posting any statements or any of the API stuff that Joan has. This was more just determining if we could figure out when someone read everything. But I also stumbled across the video stuff, so that was part of my write-up.
Okay, appreciate it. Appreciate it. I just wanted to give you a chance to elaborate. So Helen's comments are here. She put in some examples, testing the LiveCode video commands. She published a Windows Media, WMV, Windows Media Video, I think it is.
Yes, and I was not able to follow
documents.
along with that because that doesn't run natively on the Mac player.
Right.
I like the concept. I was able to play it in VLC and see what she was doing, but I couldn't get that playback to work through LiveCode.
Okay.
I can try and convert that like Handbrake or something and then post it. I'll write that as a to-do. Like just converted it to an MP4 and then you should be able to open.
Yeah, I figured that would be a simple enough thing to do. I just ran out of time.
Yeah.
It was sort of a stumble for me, so I had to move on to something else. But I really liked the concept she was going for, and I'm super impressed by the quality of the UIs and all these stacks from fresh green developers. It says a lot to not just put a bunch of ugly text fields, as we've figured out, that don't look right. Just a little bit of formatting and a little bit of alignment go a long way.
Yeah.
This is the instructional design parts of the people who actually make things so people can learn. I think they've got those skills. I just want to say I've got to go. I've got something else I have to do. But I was just glad to be able to jump in and.
Well, I think the last thing I would say while you're online, Martin, is that I sent a note to Jessica, and they're going to let us present on the 22nd.
Oh, good.
So we have a slot reserved on the last day of Cohort.
April 22nd?
Yes.
Are we applying for the other thing, the party?
I haven't done that yet, but I would recommend we do that if we want to do a longer presentation that gives us definitely gives us additional visibility and gets some recognition going out there.
Okay, so we're the 22nd during the regular cohort meeting.
Yeah, that's during the regular cohort meeting, and then afterwards would be the party.
It's usually a few weeks after.
Yep.
I haven't registered yet. I'll have to put that into my schedule, make sure I don't have that booked up with something else. And what time is it?
The 22nd would be during our regular 2 p.m. slot.
Oh, okay. So we don't have a set.
Right. We don't have a set
okay.
time yet.
Okay.
A specific time within that slot. No.
Okay. 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 So I will work on that stuff and post it when I get it, and then I have next week nothing conflicting with it, so I will see you then, and hopefully in better form. What's today? 31st. Next week. Yeah, no, that's good, the 7th. So I will see you then.
So I'm just writing notes as we go. And then the other thing, I think we sort of touched on the Part 2 projects. We asked Martin to detail a little bit about his work with the video player piece. And then Andrew just sort of briefed us on the PDF. And I think those are going to be helpful as we step forward. I don't know why I'm in all caps on the other screen, but I appear to be with caps lock.
Okay. Okay, but anyways,
so
I've
thanks,
got
Martin.
to run. See you later. Okay, thanks.
And then the intro to LiveCode piece, that actually just turned out to be me and Kevin that had an interest in that. So I sent Kevin through the direct messaging in Slack a URL that I've published for the Intro to LiveCode session that they just published. So this is sort of off the record, but that needs to be between me and him. And I didn't really get anybody else that was interested in it. I think that might be a question for Joan or Helen if they want to see something like that. Kevin, I don't mean to sell you short, but I didn't really see the value in trying to put together an hour or two that would have turned into a one-on-one when there's stuff like that that's recorded that I can point you to. If we do get more interest in that from Helen and Joan and you, we can take that a little deeper if you like, or I can have a one-on-one with you and answer some of the questions.
Now that makes
that you
sense.
might have. I mean, actually, we might even. There's only a couple more things to comment on our agenda. We might even ask you if there's anything you want to ask about today while you've got multiple of us online.
No, I'm pretty good today.
Okay.
I'll just go over the video.
Okay. Yeah, I just put that up last night. So the timing when I looked at when to meet was for this morning, and that was the other challenge was, for us to be online 2 or 3 hours and then to come back and do the meeting was overwhelming. I'm still working on the back and the stamina issues, so I didn't want to overdo it and not be online for the meeting today. So that's sort of where we're at with things. I guess I would say we can wrap up. We've got like less than 4 minutes. We're just over 3 minutes left. So I'd ask Kevin, you're on video and audio. Do you have anything you want to close with this week?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Andrew or Peter, do you have any comments or questions that we should be looking at? Anything we've missed?
No, I'll have something for next week.
Okay, I look forward to it. I don't know if Andrew's multitasking. I'll give him a moment to chime in or chat if you want. Let's see, I need to go up here and turn on chat so I can see it, because it says there are 4 things in it, but I'm not seeing now. Yeah, I just saw Joan's. Nothing new for me. Thanks, Andrew, and I think we'll talk to you next week. Talk to you guys in Slack. See you tomorrow at the xAPI Cohort session. Anytime in Slack if you have questions or concerns that you want to share. And my to-do items are to finish out this last file that we just made updates to and post a new version of that into Slack so people can look at the one that is working correctly. So at this point, we've got less than a minute. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep. See you next time.